Peace, family. Super excited to be back. I am back after about a year. My name is Tashi Yvette. For those of you who don't know me, most affectionately call me Moon, which I still answer to, and I'm super excited to be back here on YouTube. Listen, I'm going to be honest. I have no real script today. I'm not coming on to give a scripted talk. I just want to talk about life. So, honestly, this is probably just going to serve as a video diary for me today because there's some things that have recently come up for me that I'm realizing that I'm dealing with. Number one, I'm an autism mommy. So, any hopes of a quiet video is almost null and void. Kasai, can you keep your voice down, please? Yeah, almost null and void. Like we can just can that. Anybody who's an autism mom, you already know what it is. My son does not typically. He's never from out of my care, honestly. Especially since I moved like an hour away from my family. So he used to spend more time with his grandmother and things of that nature, he doesn't do as much as that anymore. So he's with me 24/7. So getting a quiet video is like pulling teeth. So if you need a quiet video, I'm probably not going to be the person that you want to watch. That's the first thing. Okay, so why am I popping up now? And where have I been? Where have I been? Okay, so you all know probably about a year ago, well, it has been a year ago, I started a business called The Healing Chess. And it's a business that where we assist those who are trying to basically get from one point of their life into another point of their life. Who wants to live in their most authentic expression, who wants to learn, heal, grow, and evolve into the greatest version and most desired version of themselves. Not anyone else's version of themselves, but their version. Like, what is the version that they want to actually actualize? And so, in doing that, it's so funny because I can remember studying under Professor Melanie for a short amount of time. And one of the things she used to always say was that the moment that you decide, you declare that you're a healer, here comes the test. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to heal yourself. Now, although I know for a fact that I have healed myself time and time again, which is what brought me to actually creating the healing chest and birthing the whole process and building them around those 4 pillars. Up until now, it had been an unconscious expression. What does that mean? That means that I went through things, and when I would get to the other side and I look backwards, I realized what the process was that I went through to get to the other side. And then I noticed that I've done it time and time and time again. It's one of the reasons you always hear me say that healing is not a one and done thing. Like at every turn, like when you finish healing and you kind of close out one chapter, you realize that there's something else that's going to come up for you, right? So here we are, July 2025. I start this business. I'm excited. I start out just kind of doing the healing tip of the week, ready to open up offerings. Many of you know me as being an intuitive astrologer, which is something that I absolutely tie into the healing chest offerings. And so I'm up and ready to go, and bam, what happens? August 12th of 2025, I reached out to my son's father and got a response from his significant other at the time. And she was answering the text message. And when she initially answered the text message, she was very like hostile. But come to find out, he had passed away. And this was August 12th of 2025. And he had passed away on July 20th of 2025. And no one had bothered to reach out. And so, therefore, my son missed his dad's homegoing because his dad was Muslim. They actually buried him within 3 days, and we didn't find out until August 12th. Everything had passed. So, like, the family didn't call us, like, the girlfriend didn't call us, or she says that was her husband, but we later found out that they were never even married, but she didn't call. Either way, and that doesn't matter. That's neither here nor there. it just completely kind of blindsided us, right? And so if you all notice, like that's around the time, like after that, I felt so boom. It was like, oh my goodness, like I got hit by a Mack truck. You know what I mean? I couldn't process it, and I think it was a certain amount of closure that just wasn't there. And Zaire, can mommy record, please? Okay. Anyway, so it was just so interesting because it hit us like a ton of bricks, and then life just did not slow down. So right after that, I got the opportunity to move. I was already looking for a place to move. I got the opportunity to move, and I'm trying to facilitate a move that's an hour away, which may not seem like a lot to some people, but I don't know if how many of you, like if you're familiar, when you have a child with autism, like routine is very important to them, and like actually uprooting and changing environments can be very challenging. Also, I had absolutely no help. So I packed up my whole house myself. I hired my movers. And we had been there for 6 years. So like, you never know how much stuff you accumulate until, oh my God, until you have to pack it up and move. So like, I had to facilitate everything myself. And on top of that, when my son, like for me to do this, my son was supposed to be staying with my mom during the move, but my mom got ill and had been in and out of the hospital. And so he just had like I had to do it with him there. And so it was a very challenging time. Like I said, it was interesting because I found out he passed August 12th. September 26th is when I got the email about the possibility to move. And then I went ahead and jumped at the opportunity. I think I got the approval October 4th, signed a lease by November 4th, but I couldn't really move right away. And it just was because I had to overlap a little bit over a month to get my son used to the idea that we were moving. So we would come up here on the weekends and we would shoot up here like during the week if we could, and just get him kind of like acclimated to the fact that we were going to move. And then we got here. I instantly felt like that my nerves were a lot better and that the environment was better for both of us. But we got hit with a massive snowstorm. And it was just so much. Like he missed a lot of school, and then he missed a lot of school, period, because at the same time we were transitioning. One of the things that I had not realized at the time is that, baby, you still have not grieved. I found it difficult to even begin the grieving process. And one of the reasons I felt like I found it difficult to begin the grieving process was that I didn't exactly know how to approach it with him, with my child. I didn't have the reference point of closure. Now I lost close family members to me at his age. One of the things, and this is a lot of people don't take children to funerals, but my parents always took us to funerals, and it served for me. It served as a reference point. It gave me a greater understanding, I believe, at the time, for as much as I could take in for what death was and possibly how permanent it is in this realm. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. And so it gave me a reference point, but we didn't have that. I didn't know exactly how to approach it. And I actually didn't know how to feel. My son's father and I, we had a really tumultuous relationship for a very long time. But what was so crazy is that the March before he passed, we had a really long, heartfelt conversation, and on we were building on trying to figure out how to bridge and co-parent up effectively. But because there had been like these periods of him not being present, we were working on a way to ease him into it. So eventually my son could spend weekends with him. But initially it would start for like a couple of hours where they come into my home. As I stated at the time, he had a significant other. And because they were cohabitating, I had invited them both to come into my home because I knew him. And so if he was living with her, she was gonna end up being the my child's probably primary caretaker while they were together, while he was with them. So I had invited both of them, extended for them to come in for a couple of hours at a time so he can get used to being around him on that level, especially her because he had not met her at all. You know what I mean? And then eventually they could take him out, and then eventually he can spend the night, and then eventually he can spend the weekend, so on and so forth. And so we had a talk about that, and he was like, I got a couple more things I got to get together. He did lose, he had lost some, like a mother figure to him. It was his aunt. And so he was going through a little bit of a difficult time. But he was like, we're working to get this together. And we were cool. So we had lots of communication. I put my phone on low power mode, and I think it took my, give me 1 second, y'all. I think it took my screen down a little bit, which I don't need to happen. I need it to go up. I'm not really worried about, okay, that might be better. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. So with that being said, that looks a little light. We don't need it that light. Can we bring it back down? Bring it back down. Okay, so with that being said, we had kind of really cleared the air and we're moving forward. We had so we had been in contact here and there, just trying to get those things together. But I remember, like, I had been contacting him for a couple of weeks and I was trying to figure out why he wasn't responding. Never in a million years that, like, I didn't even suspect that anything had happened. I just thought that he was in one of his modes, which is something that he does, you know what I mean? Or did at the time. And so when I did get the news that he had passed away, I was devastated. And it was like a gut punch. It knocked the wind. Well, I got my sister say that blew the wind out my sails. Listen, it blew the wind out my sails, and from there, everything came to a screeching halt in terms of the progression that I was making in terms of business and things of that nature, and really wanting to begin to open up and be more available. I'm really passionate about service and helping people as a person who is a former suicide attemptee survivor, someone who has dealt with mental health over the years, someone who has been able to heal themselves at every turn. It's the whole reason I started my business, so that I can help people. And right as I was stepping into that and beginning to embody that is when I was met with this. Now, I don't believe that that's a coincidence because, as I stated before, I do believe there are times that, like, as soon as I'm not sure, y'all, my phone is doing something. Either I don't know how to use this camera or something is happening. But anyway, I do believe that when you're ready to step into a role and answer a calling, because it's one thing of stepping into a role, it's another thing answering your soul's calling, right? And I know that every experience that I've been through up until now was preparing me for this moment. And so I think it's only natural that, like, you would be somewhat tested. Okay, so this is what you declare and decree. This is what you know to be true. Now, prove it. Boy. And I'm always up for the challenge. But there was a processing that needed to happen first. And it took some time, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. Like, before I could even, like, going through the whole winter and adjusting, like, everything. I had to, I'm a Gemini moon, so compartmentalizing is a thing that kind of comes with my process too. Not necessarily recommended, but I do think that everyone has a process and it's important that you recognize it for what it is. And compartmentalizing really is part of my process. Things tend to get stuck in these compartments until I have the emotional capacity and the mental capacity to deal with them. So it was like laying dormant somewhere in my psyche between then and around May. And I realized that May came around of 2026 and it was probably the first time I had said it out loud to anyone outside of my family that, oh, my son's father is deceased. And I realized that I hadn't even told his teachers at the new school that we went to. And like we were kind of navigating the end of like the second half of the school year because I moved him in the over the winter break. We changed schools. And they probably just think, I don't know, they might have thought I was a poor, like a terrible parent or something, or somewhere in between. Because here I am, I'm showing up at these meetings and I'm having these intelligent conversations and I'm advocating for my child, but some days he's just not in school. Some days we're just opting out of life. You know what I mean? And that in itself is a thing. And now I look at it and I look back and say, oh, that was all part of the process. So I'm going to tell you what brings me here after all that. That's the backstory, everything that we went through. We're doing well. But about 3 months ago, and this is probably why I said it out loud. What's that? That was May. June, July, August. Yeah, this is probably why I ended up saying it out loud. Okay. So about 3 months ago, I came down. I had been working with the trainer. That's a whole other situation because I'm a person who have always paid probably more attention to my spiritual life than my spiritual well-being than my physical well-being. And I've always felt split, like not grounded in my body. And when you truly do come to a place where you cannot have spiritual wellness without physical wellness. You cannot, you know what I mean? That is just like the body is mind, body, and spirit. You know what I mean? And so to be truly healthy, all of these things need to be addressed. So interesting enough, I started working with a trainer, and I'm gonna tell you what happened to me, y'all. I got came down with a case of sciatica out of nowhere. I've never dealt with sciatica a day in my life. I don't really have mobility issues. I've never had like slip disc. I've never had, as a matter of fact, when I went into the trainer, they put me on one of the machines and I could tell that she was a little surprised because I am an overweight woman, but like no inflammation around my organs, nothing like that. I eat a pretty decent as far as what I put in my body, but I overeat. You know what I mean? So anyway, I came down with sciatica and everything halted again. I mean, I am crying to get out the bed. I'm crying to sit on the toilet to use the bathroom. TMI. I mean, it's just real. And so I was like, what is happening? Because initially I just really thought it was something that would pass in like a week or two. And it just kept going and it was getting worse. And it was and like every time I thought it was easing up and I found myself taking medicine every day. Now, this is where it got tricky. I went to the doctor and they put me on prednisone. Listen, I didn't know I can't take prednisone. I don't know anything about prednisone because I just said I've never really been on any medicine. Baby, I took the prednisone. The prednisone made me just depressed. I mean, I was plastered to my couch crying, having problems getting up, snapping at my son. And I was like, what the hell? And then it was like, oh no, I can't take this. You know what I mean? This doesn't work for me. It had my mood in shambles. Now, it's not odd for something to be able to possibly, because I'm very sensitive. And I'm a naturally moody person. So it's not abnormal for something to come in and cause, I guess, what you would consider like imbalance. You know what I mean? It's things that I place in my daily environment, and just my daily how I move from day to day to assist me in staying even keeled and balanced and things of even, in those things, right? So, and I don't do substance. I don't, I drink very, very seldomly. I stopped drinking for a long time ago. I will like, well, I'm not gonna say a long time ago, but I will say I probably haven't had a drink now in maybe like a year almost. But even before then, like I dialed it all the way back. So I would find myself when I was in certain arenas with certain people, I might drink, and then I even laid off of that. You know what I mean? So anyway, with that being said, it was just a very interesting time. So I sat down with my spirit team and I said, I'm just going to go inward. And because I couldn't figure out what the hell was causing me to have this sciatica, right? So I sat down, and this is just me, y'all, opening up and being really 100% kind of just vulnerable and honest about how life will come at you. There's some parts of this you may be able to identify with, others that you may not. But one of the things that I'm grateful for is that I am a person who will just cut stuff and go inward to try to get the answers. I'm not always one who's prone to look outward for answers. And so I sat down and I meditated and I sat with my spirit team and I was like, what is this? And immediately I heard that it was a blockage. And I'm like, well, what kind of blockage? You know what I mean? And so I wrote it down, but basically, in a nutshell, they let me know it was an emotional blockage, and it came from me because I had not. Now, keep in mind, at the time I didn't think about my sunflower at all because I done moved on, like moving on with life. They told me that I had not grieved and that I needed to start processing the grief as it pertains to him. And so my response was very honest with my spirit team. The reason, so normally I process through communication. I'm a Gemini moon. It's what I'm doing right here. And one of the things the reasons I felt like I had not processed and really grieved is because to maintain the integrity, since he's my son's father, there were things that I just didn't want to discuss because we didn't always have the best relationship, and there were things that were really hurtful that we had been through. And so I didn't want to dishonor in a way that would be disrespectful to my son, so to speak. Even though I understand that it's not. That like, because two things can be true at the same time. Like, he can, a person can love their child and not treat the child's mother great. Now, that normally comes with a distorted type of love when there may be some unhealed trauma on behalf of the person who, but at the same time, nonetheless, love can be there. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of times what I find with me anyway is that a lot of my experiences, because of who I am and my issues over the years with self love and learning to love myself, I attract people. And I always say this. I say, people, whatever deep, dark insecurities you have about yourself that you're acting like aren't there, if you're not careful, people will show up in your life just to show you. They'll act out that energy for you. You know what I mean? And that's why it's really important. That's why people can say what they want, but deep down, you cannot trick the universe. Like your energy output is going to attract certain things. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes, and I know this firsthand as a healer, that and a person who has who has been told that I have like a bright aura, that I do attract darker energies. But it's up to me to be able to discern, and when you're in a healthy space, a healthy mind, body, and spirit, healthy self worth and value, a healthy sense of self. You can discern those things. But if you're hiding insecurities and other things beyond that, then you may entertain some energies that perhaps I'm not going to say shouldn't, because everything happens for a reason. So if you do, maybe it's a lesson to learn there, but would have been easier if you didn't. Let me just put it like that. So anyway, but they told me I did not grieve and I needed to grieve. And so when I came at them with the response of, well, how do I do that without dishonoring, my child? And they told me to journal. And I was like, oh, it was like, write down your whole story, you know, because there was a lot of love there. But it just was also a lot of dysfunction. And I think that's normal when you have, like, whenever there is a broken foundation at the core of something, you're never going to have a sturdy structure. Like, eventually, that shit is going to crumble. And we see this happen a lot. You know what I mean? So, with that being said, that's where I am in my process now. I'm just ready. And it's interesting, they gave me this message probably about 2 months ago, but I even had to sit with that. Once again, I'm clear about my process. I'm not a person who jumps on things right away. I feel like I could learn a lot from that good old initiatory Aries energy that takes the leap. I'm a South Node in Aries and at 0 degrees. And it's so interesting because I'm not, and most people revert to that South Node energy. And maybe when I was young, I was a little bit more impulsive like that, or quick to jump and just and trust and take the leap. But that's something in my adult life as I've grown and matured that I'm trying to find the balance of, because there are times when you still need to take action. You know what I mean? You can't sit on indecisiveness, basically. So, with that being said, that's where I'm at. And this was just a very open, honest unveiling of the last year of my life in like short format. I'm super excited, just moving forward and beginning to step into my purpose more. I probably honestly will sit down like this and just talk more. Um, I think what prompted this is probably coming off of this South Node new moon solar eclipse in Leo. And it's interesting because Leo is a creative energy. Leo is a heartfelt energy. It's very much so associated with the heart space. It's a big gregarious energy. But with the South Node being there, the South Node says something has to be surrendered, or something has come to this point where it needs to be dissolved in order for you to move forward and actualizing and creating, which is a Leo word as well, or creating or birthing whatever this newness is that you want to come out of this. And in order to be bold, you have to be bold and courageous and take a step, be confident in it. You know what I mean? Which means something that may have previously held you back, that didn't let you do that, or may have previously been possibly kind of built on inauthenticity, or something that's more so of a display as it is, because it can be like this big display display of energy that sometimes can be performative. And like in this season, this Leo energy that we're in is not calling for performance. It's calling for honest, heartfelt courage, confidence. And so this has been something that I haven't really spoken about publicly. And I feel like this eclipse energy is what has prompted me to come on over here, really start to have this conversation. Yeah, I'm sorry about the lighting. It's just that I don't want to do too much light behind me. It's just that I think, let me see. I probably should have opened the blinds over there, but either way, I think it's fine. You know, it is. It is what it is. Like I said, this wasn't something that was super prepared. I don't have a script. I don't have a teaching. I'm not teaching anything. I'm just talking. You know what I mean? I am looking forward to teaching. But right now, I'm just honestly just talking and kind of letting you all know what's been going on in my world. You know what I mean? I'm looking forward to doing more of this. These are the processes that brought me to the healing chest in the first place. That learn piece is big. And me sitting down with my spirit team and them saying, hey, this is the issue with this sciatica. This is why it's now showing up in your physical vessel because you've ignored your emotional body and it's created an emotional blockage. And now you have to deal with it. You know what I mean? And that's the learn piece. So the learn, heal, grow, evolve. Now we're in, I'm sorry, y'all, somebody is calling. Now we're actually in the healing piece. This is where I'm okay with journaling and expressing and talking. This is my healing when it comes to an emotional, my emotional process, me being a Gemini moon needs to communicate, needs to express it, needs to kind of gather as much information and spread as much information as I can about it. And because it's in the eighth house, it's naturally naturally like I have no problem speaking on these things once I'm ready. You know what I mean? So yeah, I am excited about what's to come. I didn't talk much about the healing chest on this actual video, but I will because we do have some things coming down the pipeline, and I'm super excited because I soon will be offering consultations, but I'm also currently enrolled to be a spiritual life coach certified, which is super exciting to me because I'm a person who kind of already provides that service just naturally. And through my experience in the tools and the numerous other certifications that I have, being able to actually have a formal spiritual life coach certification, it's a 9-month intensive, and it is from a very reputable, through a very reputable program that has a proven track record, and they a track record of like just really doing a great job of training the a lot of the healers that are doing big work out here. And so I'm super excited about that. So you all stay tuned. I'm going to tag the healing chest in this video. I'm going to post this on Halo of Light, which is my regular YouTube, but I am going to tag the healing chest. You know, if you all want to go over there and subscribe, please feel free to. I will go back to posting on that channel as I also will on this one. And a lot of the videos may actually be like posted on both channels as like a what do you call it? Co-created. Yeah, like we co-create with the universe. What are we talking about here? But yeah, like it's so you know, feel free if you enjoy this content. Look, I know this video was long. It's not gonna be for everybody. It is not, but I'm not for everybody. And I'm looking forward to building community. I've said that before, and it seems like if at return I've run into some things, but I think the biggest thing now is just really showing up. I'm in a much better place. Even environmental wise, not as heavy. We're happy, you know. And so I'm just super excited. And so, listen, you all will be hearing more from me. I'm going to just kind of spilled all the business on here. I really don't care, you know, not like that. I mean, I do care, but it's purposeful. And I'm hoping that hopefully someone understands that even when you're in the arena and you are stepping into your calling to experience and provide deeper healing, right? You're still going to go through your own processes. You're still going to have challenges. I think a lot of times what happens is we get projected onto that you should have it all figured out, and that's not true. And so if that's something that's keeping you from moving forward in your journey, let's 86 it. What does 86 stand for? Is that dead dad? I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, get rid of it. Whatever, just get rid of it, because here's the reality. There is someone who needs what you have. They need your story. They need your experience. They need your understanding. They need your lights. They need you to hold that space while they move through that situation. And so I think we're in a place where more of us are going to be stepping forward, because we've been in the shadows kind of really doing the work. It's a lot of people who've been doing the work, who may be ready to step out at this time. So if that's you, let this serve as encouragement for you as I sit here in complete vulnerability. Anyway, until next time, y'all, that's all I got. I love y'all. I love y'all. Love, love, much, 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 much love. I'm super excited to be sharing.